Okay, I guess we'll just get started. Today we have Olivia Fry, Southwest Farm Bill Biologist with Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. So she's going to talk about habitat and wildlife and how she can work with urban soil health and all that stuff about her program. So thanks, Olivia.
Thank you. Hi, guys. Let me see if I can get things shared. I'm not quite sure how to do this on here. Mm,
There should be a share button at the bottom.
There is. Thank you. Okay. Can you see everything?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Let's see if I can just play this. Great. Okay. Um, Hi guys. I'm Olivia Fry. Like Casey said, I am the Southwest Indiana Farm Bill Wildlife Biologist with Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever. I'm stationed out of the Vincennes area office, and I cover about 11 counties in the the southernmost part of the state of Indiana. Um, there's my contact information there. And at the end of this presentation, we can go back to this main page and write that down if you guys need it. So a little bit about my organization. We're partners with really a lot of entities, but mainly NRCS is probably our main partner that we work with hand in hand. And our mission is to conserve pheasants, quails, and other wildlife through habitat improvements, public access, education, and conservation advocacy. So this is kind of how we spend our program dollars, with most of it going into habitat restoration and enhancement. So the habitat conservation, so we do have public lands, similarly to like DNR, we do manage and have those. I think we have about 2 in Indiana near Willow Slough area, and then I think we're acquiring one in the Patoka area. So we've had a lot of land acquisitions and we've permanently protected a lot of land, but a large part of my job includes helping private landowners create habitat either on their own or with the help of governmental programs such as CRP, CSP, and EQIP. And I help with the planning and guidance for wildlife focused practices. So when I'm talking to landowners, these are some of the questions that I want to ask to get a reference point on what is feasible, to match their goals, and to make sure I set up realistic expectations. Pollinator habitat specifically can range from a small monarch way station, a prairie strip, or a whole field practice. And there are several practices that can be associated with pollinators, and I'll get into some of those. But when we talk about those questions, or when I ask questions to landowners, these are the ones that I have in mind. So where they envision this habitat going, what are their target species? If it's not pollinators, then it might be deer, it might be pheasants, it might be quail. What site recommendations are needed? What equipment do they have available? What is their budget? And that's kind of when we can talk about governmental programs such as cost shares. So small scale, EQIP. So this is for those small scale practices. So more of an urban small farm situation. So this is kind of where Casey gets involved. These are areas that we're looking at less than an acre. Areas that might be in subdivisions where someone has some land and they want to do something with it, or it might even be public areas, so schools or libraries or churches. The big highlight I would want to take from this, and I've taken this from the 2025 practice user guide that has come out. The practice scenarios are going to be higher to offset following factors for smaller scale implementations. So the mobilization costs spread over small extents. So in terms of plugs, or mulching, those things for the small areas can actually be really expensive when you're not getting things in bulk. Some of these practices that we might do now, I'm not going to go over heavy program details I don't really feel like that's the point here because that's very planner specific, but I do want to just kind of highlight what's available and what's available for landowners in those small scale entities. So with this one, with conservation cover, we might be looking at a pollinator mix for small footprint. The payment rate is smaller, but that's because we're using more introduced species such as like clover, and we're doing it for honeybee habitat. So right now, beekeeping and making honey is a big thing that's occurring, especially for those small farmers, those hobbyists that want to have those beehives. So this is where we're looking at the planting needs to at least be 0.5 in continuous acres, and at least 20 feet wide. Field borders and hedgerow plantings. So this is something where we're looking at for field border. If it's with a pollinator, we're only available where introduced or non-attractive vegetation will be used to provide a buffer zone away from pesticide drift and will protect the primary habitat. So we're not using natives in this situation, but a hedgerow planting, we're going to be using for chemical drift to prevent that, maybe enhance pollen, nectar, and nesting habitat for pollinators. There's been a situation in Gibson County where I had a landowner only want to do a 1/4 acre of a field in his backyard, but he was butted up against a soybean field in this subdivision. He only had about 350 feet that he needed to protect against the soybean field for his pollinators. So he went into a hedgerow planting, and that's what he did to kind of have that buffer zone for his pollinators, to prevent that drift, and to have even some more nectar and blooming species. But not even that. When I think of hedgerow planting as well, and this is just in my quail mind, I think of covey areas, shrub thickets, something like that, also to not only help pollinators but help other wildlife species. Our wildlife habitat planting, again, we have a small planting pollinator mix or interplanting with potted plants or shrubs. These are our two small acre planting practices that we're going to do. So we're really addressing the pollinators in these, and we're going to be using plugs for these scenarios. When I do small acre plantings, and with plugs, I want to make sure I let the landowner know that there might be a higher cost, right? And that's where we get into the cost share programs, and that's why we have these cost share programs. So here's a little chart here that's going to be, kind of starting from seed versus starting from plugs, what we're looking at. When we see the higher cost to get plugs are going to be a higher cost than getting a bulk of seed. But there is more, I suppose, more site prep that's going to be included from seed than it would be from plugs. And then the weed control is going to be a lot different. So we're going to use the plug planting worksheet and calculator. And they have their own requirements if you're going to be doing governmental programs. This is kind of what that plug planting calculator looks like on my end. Now, we don't have to be specific about this, and that's really nice. So when you see all these areas that say optional, it's because you can just fill out this quick sheet right here. So when you look at the previous recommendations, it said you needed, 2 grasses, 9 forbs. I put 3 and 15 different in each species, but then they can go to a forb and grass sheet that we give them, and they can pick out their own grasses and their own forbs depending on what's available, instead of picking out each different type of plant for them, unless it was a situation where the landowner themselves had a specific plant in mind that they were really wanting. Then you can put that in the calculator for them. DNR programs. So governmental programs are, in terms of NRCS, where you enter into a contract and you have to meet certain requirements. That's not the only avenue that you have to go. You can do DNR programs. They have an urban wildlife habitat cost share program. They're mainly looking at areas kind of around that Indianapolis area. And you can see the map of the regions that they have, but this one has a management plan for a minimum of 3 years. Or you can do the grasslands for game birds and songbirds. That one provides technical assistance, financial cost share assistance, and incentive payments. So I would say with the grasslands for game birds and songbirds, they're looking for at least an acre. So if you have a landowner that has an acre, and they don't want to do anything with it, and they don't want to do governmental programs, I would highly recommend that grasslands for game bird and songbirds. But they do have certain areas where the focal regions. Now, I think that most of the counties in Southwest Indiana hit those focal regions. But if you do need a contact for the DNR programs, just message me and I will get you in contact with the DNR biologist that does these programs. Soil and water conservation districts. So I've worked with soil and water conservation districts. All of them are different. They might have different grants available. For example, the soil and water district of Posey, Gibson, Warwick, and Vanderburgh had a grant. I think it was with the Clean Water Initiative, but they were giving away wildflower seed to promote wildflower plots. So I did get to work with a landowner in Posey County. He was able to receive an acre of seed to take his lawn grass to pollinator habitat. So I would check with the local SWCDs to see what grants they have or if they have any seed available that they're trying to get rid of. Sometimes they might have extra seed because no one went to pick up their seed. And so now they just have seed laying there and they would rather get rid of it and have it be used than be thrown away. So they're always a good contact. Partners for Fish and Wildlife. I've used this before, mainly for public spaces. So with they have a pollinator habitat education and outreach. I think it's like opportunity. It's some sort of program where different partners can, essentially a grant, will go into it for these public spaces. But they also have biologists similarly to me where they do projects and they'll have technical assistance and they'll go out. So I would look in the Partners of Fish and Wildlife if you have areas like churches, like schools, where there's not one entity of person to talk to, and maybe they don't meet the requirements for like a governmental program eligibility. This is what I would look into. Also, our own programs, Pheasants Forever and Quail Forever, we have a pollinator habitat outreach program. This program works with our chapters where we give a grant up to about $500. And this one works mainly with like 4-H grounds, schools, maybe parks. And what it is we're going to site prep an area, work with our chapters, do all of that and get the community engaged, get them out there to where they can actually plant the fields themselves, whether that's broadcasting. And that's something that gets the community involved, is more of an educational as well as putting habitat on the ground. But if you are interested in this program, you can contact me and I will contact our nearest chapter. There's really no chapters other than the Southwest Indiana chapter, and that's kind of near the Gibson, Pike, Posey area. So if you're outside of those areas, just message me and we'll still get something going for that. And then we have milkweed in the classroom. This is another pollinator friendly program that we do where we'll work with schools. We'll get them the milkweed kits. They'll plant the milkweeds in these pots in their classroom. They have a whole curriculum that we send to teachers to kind of talk about milkweed, what the purpose of milkweed is. And then the schools will find a place for the kids to go plant that, whether that's, in the landscape, in the front of their classroom, maybe it's in the playground, or maybe the kids get to take it home and plant it in their yards. So however that works out, I think it's a great program. And if you're interested in that, just give me an email and I'll set you up. Um, Talking about management, kind of going back to after, all those options of programs, when I go out to landowners, properties, I'm looking at site selection. Most of the time, if it's those small plantings, I'm looking at turf grass. That's where the most of the site prep is going to be required compared to anything else, and maybe those mulch flower beds as well, if we're talking about like landscaping in front of their homes. Site prep basics. So, we're looking at planning ahead, eradicating fescue, avoiding tillage, unless we're trying to exhaust a seed bed or we're coming back with herbicide. We definitely don't want to do any tillage. We're also trying to protect our soils, and we're going to use cover crops when necessary. Conversion from introduced cool season grasses. Again, lawn grass. A lot of people, want some sort of, maybe a pollinator way station. Maybe it's not even that big, but even still, we're going to need to kill off that grass so it doesn't come back. So with, it might require 2 to 4 herbicide applications. I don't want to hit everything with herbicide aggressively. If it's done in the proper time, if it's done in the proper timeline, and depending on weather, it should be less, but sometimes it's more. So, and then prior to treatment, we're going to mow the field to allow it to regrowth to a height of 6 to 8 inches. Herbicide application should be conducted when fescue is actively growing, and fescue will be translocating nutrients to its roots to absorb the herbicide slowly and deeply in the fall. And then glyphosate is typically recommended as it's a contact herbicide and kills what's actively growing. So, and then we have a scenario there. I highlight this point of we want to complete the site prep before we introduce hives to the site. Ideally, I want the planting to be up, right? If we're going to have hives on the site, they need to have something to eat. But at least don't be, spraying your herbicides around your hives. And here's some alternatives to herbicide use. I won't really go deeply into some of these, but solarization, cover cropping, there's some organic herbicides and shallow cultivation. I've seen solarization and cover cropping. I have yet to see organic herbicides or shallow cultivation. But there is some success with solarization, especially with if you're doing just like a small pollinator plot, that's fine. Fescue, why is fescue a problem? It's a monoculture. It depletes available resources and suppresses seed bed. Sod forming spreads through rhizomes. Essentially, if it's still there, it's going to end up taking over your pollinator. It doesn't have any beneficial value for pollinators or for many wildlife. And it's really difficult to kill. So we really, in terms of site prep, want to have that dealt with and have it killed off before we start planting something, because then it's going to be harder to deal with. And then we have selecting and purchasing seed. Again, I can help with this. I can't give you a seed vendor to choose from, but I can give you a list of seed vendors and I can make a seed mix. So here are some of the seed suppliers that we have in Indiana. This is on the I guess the contractors list for DNR. And then we have different planting dates. So we have seeding dates and then we have planting dates. That planting dates is going to be for your plugs and the seeding dates are going to be if you're seeding. Frost seeding is going to be between December 1st and February 28th when the ground surface is frozen. And that's when we talk about that frost seeding time, what we're looking for here. Planting methods, you can broadcast or no-till. If we're doing a small acres, if we're doing anything less than 5 acres, I suggest broadcasting. No-till drilling is great and fantastic, especially if you're doing a large area, but you really have to get that calibration right. And sometimes for a landowner, it's just easier for them to broadcast other than no-till drill. However, I mean, if they're doing 10 acres, yeah, they're going to want to use the drill. But anything less than 5, I think they could probably get away with broadcasting. This is a really good resource on the no-till drill, the carriers, how to calibrate. You can use a crisscross pattern. It talks about crisscross pattern in this article right here. I have before used kind of like a circle method. So going on the outside of the border and then coming towards the middle in the end. I felt that when you do it like that, you know, if you run low on seed and you're in the middle, it'll fill itself in after time. But I guess essentially what this is saying is you might need to double spread. You might need to double seed, and you don't want to use all your seed right at the beginning. So that's why that calibration is so important. And then what to expect after planting. Typically, it's not going to look great. You're going to have some annuals come up. It's going to be patchy. It's going to be weedy. You know, we have that rule of thumb where we talk about that sleep, creep, and pop. So that first year, it might be in the ground, you know, putting down its roots. The second year, you might have some rosettes come up. You might have some black-eyed Susans, or you might have some, you know, cone flowers. And then that third year, everything should be exploding and coming up. So this is a field that I planted. It's alongside Lincoln. Again, we used the that pea hop that I talked about for that, and we did a dormant seeding. And this is the spring follow-up where you just see a lot of mare's tail. But in fairness, it used to be all lawn grass that wasn't used by anything. And now we have a turkey in there with like 6 poults. So it is mare's tail. However, it is being utilized, and that's to be expected that first year. So we're going to utilize mowing as needed during establishment in the first 3 years. Ideally, you're going to mow it prior to going to seed head, but I wouldn't be too caught up in that mowing, because I wouldn't want I wouldn't want a landowner to get used to the idea of excess mowing and thinking, yes, this is what I need to be doing. So in terms of when we're in that establishment period, just reach out to your local biologist, reach out to your district conservationist, have them do a check on the field, see what's needed, see what's coming up, see if this looks normal, if it looks good, instead of just determining, I'm just going to keep mowing it. Because you might have some turkeys and poults using it. Problematic species. These are some common problematic species that you're going to see. This was some mechanical control of goldenrod. I mean, if we're in the establishment period, by all means, if you need to, that Canada goldenrod can be pretty aggressive. But ideally, I don't want to just do mowing. There have been some, I suppose, testing of different chemicals for goldenrod instead of doing a mechanical treatment to see if that's better. Jared Brook has been working on that with Purdue Extension, so I think that'll be coming out soon. But for the most part, these are going to be your most problematic species. And then you can follow that calendar of control with Sikkim. It gives a really good timeline and different herbicide recommendations on what you should be doing throughout the year with these different species. And if you need that resource, I can send that out. Just send me an email. And then routine disturbance and maintenance. I like making sure that even if it's not in a governmental program, if someone needs help with management on just a field that they planted themselves, I want to help them as best as I can with management, because I think that's going to be the most tricky part about these pollinator plots, about these native habitats, and doing them appropriately and being mindful that the wildlife is still using them, even when you're managing them. So I put in here, don't forget to leave winter habitat, manage half or smaller portions at a time, maybe a third. The smaller you break it up and you do those chunks, the least amount of impact you're going to be doing. So I have on the side how to create habitat for stem nesting bees. You know, we want to make sure that we leave some winter cover for them. mow it high in early spring, if anything, and just leave it for the rest of the year. So, and then prescribed fire. If we can use prescribed fire, that's going to be the best. Rule of thumb is going to be spring for grasses and fall for forbs. So if we're doing something where we're trying to really create diversity, we're going to be burning in that fall time to amplify more diversity there. Um, and here are some resources. If you guys aren't familiar with the Xerces Society, they have free resources available on their, I guess, on their webpage. So I pulled up the Great Lakes region for the Xerces Society. They really go into pollinator habitat well, and it's all free. It's all available online for you to look at. Now, the Purdue Extension, Renovating Native Warm Season Grass Stands for Wildlife, that's a great resource as well. If you need it, I have it in PDF. I can send that out. Otherwise, you'll have to pay, I think $10 or something like that to get it. But I really do think it's a good resource for people to have, especially since it goes through all forms of management. And that is all I have. I'll go back to the beginning so you can see my email again. If you have any questions, I guess now's the time. Oh, I think there's some in the, maybe some in the chat. Maybe not.
Kara has added the, where did that go? The Xerces document. There's also Holly added a calendar of control that you were talking about. That's in the chat as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any questions.
There's one by Mariah asking, have you seen the same success rate broadcasting versus seed drill?
I mean, I have, again, like I said, I think it depends on your acreage. So I've seen more success with broadcasting for small acreage compared to large acreage. So I think a big component of that is it's just hard to calibrate that seed drill for small acres, where you would rather just, I guess, broadcast it out and you can see it on the ground and know what you're getting. Now, if I was doing like, again, with broadcasting, you're going to need 70% bare ground. So if you have less than 70%, you're going to want to no-till drill because it can cut through it. Whereas you might not get great seed to soil contact if you are broadcasting anything less than 70% bare ground. I hope that answered that. I think Mary said, is there a resource that describes this in detail about the inside seeding method, that outside to inside seeding method? No, I don't know of a resource that does that. I have spoke to other professionals that have told me like, this is the way, that we want to do that to kind of make sure that we're getting seed on the ground and it's worked for them. So I guess I'm taking it more from people with more experience than me that have done these seedings for a very long time compared to something I've read in an article. But if I can find anything specifically on that, I will send it to you.
Well, I don't know that there's any more questions. So thank you very much for your presentation. Can you share that with me so that we can have that available for
Yeah.
everyone? Okay.
Yeah,
Awesome.
absolutely.
Awesome. thank you for your time and
Yeah.
being on here.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
Okay. I will pull up the rest of our presentation, I think. Forgive me. Okay, we are into our regional updates now. And I will hand it over to Tanvi in the Northwest.
Hi, everyone. I'm going to be in the Northwest region. A little background is that I went to Purdue University and got a BS in Ecology, Evolution, and Environmental Biology. I love restoration ecology, so I did some invasive species removal in my time in high school and college, and also after as a restoration tech. So a lot of herbicide usage and learning about native plant species in north middle Indiana. I am studying and have been studying under the soil food web to learn about microbiology in compost making, so microbe farming, and doing a lot of community engagement and education, which started with my experience in Peace Corps in East Africa in a country called Malawi, and a lot of natural resources management in montane climate. And so learning about how to engage with different people. And then permaculture, holistic systems thinking with a few different other trainings and such. And recently, over the past few months, even before this job came into purview, I attended a few different ICP events, such as the um, small farm ruminant training, which was really interesting to learn about how different animals are uh, capable of helping us on farms, and high tunnel build, different farm tours. The picture shows a site visit that we did at a farm in Monroe County, I think. And there was agroforestry, kind of rotational grazing with pigs and turkeys and goats happening in the forest. And that's been really, really cool to learn from. And right now, as I'm just acclimating to the job and learning about it, I'm still in Madison, Indiana, and I'm hoping to move up north, somewhere near Lafayette, by the end of this month. So I'm just reaching out to all the SWCD people, local growers, and one person I met, Harry Smith from Grow Local, and Rec and Purdue Extension, and all these other partners. So if you want to reach out to me at all and you're in the Northwest region, and have a desire to create events or get any technical assistance or anything, we can please reach out to me. And I'm really excited to just like do a lot of work and just start meeting you all. So that's my update.
Thanks, Tanvi. And welcome. We're excited to have you.
Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Terry Thyssen. I'm in the northeast part of the state. So in the past months, we've done kind of a overarching look at all the things that we've done, big highlights, but we have started to focus on just picking one highlight from the month. So today I have chosen to talk about the Pollinator Steward certification that was hosted here in the Northeast. So by the Pollinator Partnership, Mariah Russell did an amazing job setting up 2 days of instruction, and It was a good group of people, just over a dozen people, I believe, that were in the program. And it was mostly backyard gardeners, and it was an opportunity to really dive into how to be able to create these pollinator habitats in our backyards. And we had local experts come in, talk about the how to be able to have really great success with these pollinator plantings. And part of the program too then requires folks to spend time over the next year creating a design, implementing a design in their yard, doing educational outreach with pollinator habitat curriculum, or just like going out and teaching people about it, right? And it was a really neat program. I'd recommend it for folks if you have an opportunity to. It was 2 intense days. And one of the great things about it too is she had a farmer from the gosh, I am forgetting what state. Virginia, maybe? Please don't quote me on that one. And talking about using native plants as a cover crop. So looking at partridge pea as a cover crop, an annual warm season cover crop. And it was a really neat experience to be able to see the science that they're doing. It was all through a SARE grant. Oh yeah, Mariah was here. And yes, Virginia. Great. Thanks. And so it was a really neat experience. And I do have to say too, I was really excited to be invited to talk, and I got to talk about soil health and soil um, testing, and it was fun having a group of people get excited about soil and soil health. And Mariah graciously shared some of the feedback that the participants had, and it was really heartwarming to hear some of the folks or read some of the folks saying that one of them said that they were looking forward to the soil section the least, and it was their most favorite. So for the love of soil, we're continuing to spread the word in any way that we can. And so that was my highlight for this past month. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Terry. And I guess that's on to me in the Southwest. So for my highlight in the Southwest, it was really exciting for the Push It, the local working group, to host this farm vitality workshop where Jesse Frost came and spoke. But it was also a fantastic networking day where there were different groups in the afternoon and sessions that you could go to and attend. Kara Bergschneider was also there to talk. A local, the EPA with a local lead contamination project that they're working on. So there's all kinds of things, as well as local farmers. And they also had lunch. Some of those items were sourced directly from local farms, and some of those farms were in attendance of the program. And they had a local chef prepare those for us for the day. So all around, it was just a really fantastic day, and kudos to the Push It group for putting that together, putting all the work into that. It was a really awesome day, and hopefully we can do something like that again, maybe around the state. So that's my highlight. It was a really good time. So now we'll go to the Southeast. Megan.
Hey everybody, clearly I am slow on the uptake because I completely forgot that we were only supposed to share one thing. So I can just say that I had a busy month and had a lot of really great events to go to. But the one that really warmed my heart, aside from getting to snuggle with agroforestry animals at the Bussey Farmstead, was to be at Green Acres Farm in Cincinnati, Ohio. They are a research and education farm dedicated to utilizing soil health in all of their practices. So it was a really cold and wet day, but a really wonderful time. And I have some pictures of that on the next slide if you want to go forward, Casey. Thanks. Oh, just one picture, just kidding. The top left is a picture from their garden. You can see all of those really great soil health practices happening There is cover, there is mulching, there is cover crops, there is living roots in the soil, and there is very little disturbance. So we were really excited to see their their what they were doing, and just it's just a wonderful place to go. So if you happen to be in Cincinnati at any time, check them out. And I was really impressed with the Jesse Frost Farm Vitality Push It event. Had a great time, wonderful food, great to see so many excited growers and Indiana conservation partners there. So way to go, everybody. And I'm really excited to share what Urban Soil Health has in store for you all in 2025. So looking forward to moving forward with everyone. Thanks.
Thanks, Megan. And here we've got a calendar of just events coming up, things that are happening throughout the whole state. So this isn't by region, this is all of us. Obviously the winter solstice coming up, Michiana Regional Seed Swap in Goshen, Indiana, Soil Health and High Tunnels happening in Argos, Indiana. We'll see you at the IASWCD Annual Conference in Indianapolis in January. The Persephone days are over in January 26th, so that's exciting. Looking forward to that and more sunshine. And then the Purdue Small Farms Conference also will be there, and put that on your calendars as well. And then there's our QR code for our newsletter, more events and information, all that good stuff. And then I think we're into partner share. So if anybody has anything that they'd like to share, now's the time. And I'm going to put it back on that slide so you guys can see that for a little longer. But if anybody has anything they want to share that's going on, happening, would love to hear from you.
Hey,
pop it-
sorry, I'm kind of looking up, but I'll say real quick that thank you, Terry, again for speaking at our workshop. And we will be having another workshop in March 2025. Sorry, yeah, 25 next year down in the Southwest area. So keep your eye out for that for both attending, and I'll be looking for speakers. So if you'd like to be a part of it, please reach out. But yeah, it's going really well, and I appreciate the partnership.
Hey, good morning, everyone. This is Ashley Adair at Purdue University, Extension Organic Agriculture Specialist. I just wanted to put a brief plug in for the Indiana Organic Grain Farmer meeting coming up on February 19th, 2025 here in West Lafayette. So if you have an interest in organic grain production, this does focus a bit more on the larger scale, but just wanted to throw that out there so you can help spread the word. We have keynote speaker Dave Campbell of Lily Lake Organic Farm out of Illinois, as well as he is a consultant with Rodale Institute, working with organic grain producers kind of in a multi-state region here in the Midwest, and he's working with a few farmers here in Indiana. So we're excited to have him on as a keynote this year. So if you have questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me. I'll drop my email and a link to the event in the chat.
Hi, everyone. This is Julie Clark. I'm in Warren County in the Northwest region. And just a reminder that all the soil and water conservation districts will be having their annual meeting from January 1st all the way up till March 31st or 15th, I think is the deadline to have that annual meeting. So wherever your region is at, try to make as many annual meetings as possible. I know mine is scheduled for February 27th at the Beef House, and it is a good celebration for the 80th anniversary this year. So super stoked about that and super nervous as well. We are also Fountain County and Warren County with the Flash group, or Friends Learning About Soil Health. We are planning or intending an event in March about soil health and preparing your garden beds or your boxes for the upcoming season, growing season. So there'll be more details to come as it gets closer and after our annual meetings. So right now that is our focus, but thank you everyone and welcome Tanvi.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah. This is Martin Franke at LaGrange County Soil and Water Conservation District with Kyle Burchett, our technician and educator. January 31st and February 1st, we're having our annual rotational grazing conference in Chippewa. We just sent the registration brochures out yesterday in a bulk mailing. The last couple of years, we've had over 2,000 people at it. It's been in operation for about 20 years. So, was wondering, and I don't know if this is the right place to ask this or not, about Pheasants Forever. For many years, we've distributed free food plot seed through Pheasants. And it sounded in the earlier presentation like our Northeast chapter maybe doesn't exist anymore out of Auburn. Does anybody know anything more about that?
Hey, Martin. Is that right, Martin? Okay. Could you send me an email about that? And I will talk with our chapter rep, our chapter representative of all of the chapters in Indiana, so they can reach out to the president of that chapter or confirm that they're no longer around. But I can get that confirmed with you today. You're muted.
That's Olivia Fry at what?
That would be ofry@pheasantsforever.org.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Are there any last minute partner shares? If not, I think we can wrap up our meeting early. Thank you everyone for joining us for this past year, and we're looking forward to next year. Hopefully we've got a lot of big things planned for 2025. Our next urban soil health meeting, urban updates meeting, sorry, will be January 14th. And that's going to cover utilizing livestock for soil health improvement on the small scale. So we'll hit on those smaller practices with livestock. So join us then. And everyone have a nice holiday, rest of December, and see you all next year. Thank you.